Well, good afternoon and welcome to today's DMRC meeting. I'd like to welcome members to our first hybrid meeting of the Development Management Review Committee and remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I have agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking, and please raise your electronic hand should you wish to speak. For members present, please raise your hand if you wish to speak. Can we move on now to the apologies?
No apologies, Convener. I can confirm that Councillors Doran and Fairweather are attending remotely. All other members are present in the chamber.
Okay, declarations of interest or transparency. Okay, I don't see anything there. We'll move on from this. Okay, Councillor Fairweather.
Thank you, Convener. It's neither really. It's really a matter of record. Regarding item 4, the MEMIS, the application number 22/00646 full. I missed the site visit, so I will not be taking part, Convener.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Fairweather, for clarifying. Move on to minutes of the previous meeting. That's the 7th and the 9th of March. Are these satisfactory? Okay, right, thank you. Move on to item 4, which is land 150 metres west of Netherton Cottages, Mimas, Forfar, response to written procedure notice. Hand over to Mr McGuinness there to take us through this one.
Thanks, Convener. Let me just share my screen. Right, 2 seconds. It's not working. Sorry about this, Convener. My notes have gone AWOL. I'm going to have to do this by slide view. Sorry, members. It's not playing game with me. First time doing it in a laptop. Right, share a screen again. Right. Just for the first part, once I just read out my notes, when I go into the presentation, I'll put it back onto full screen so members can just bear with me. The case in front of members of DMRC this afternoon is for planning permission for the siting of 2 glamping units and associated works at Netherton Cottages, Mimas, Forfar. The proposal would involve the construction of 2 glamping pods measuring 2.9 metres in height, 5.9 metres in length and 3.5 metres in width. The pods would be finished in wooden cladding and the accommodation would include an open pan living and sleeping area with bathroom and toilet facilities to the rear. The proposed bike sheds would be 1.8 metres high, 2 metres long and 1.2 metres wide. Vehicular access to the development would be taken from the north east of the site via new access onto the classified C30 Cortachy to Menmuir public road. The plans indicate that a 2 metre high grass mound would be formed to the north of the site between the northerlymost pod and the public road. Hedging is proposed along the eastern site boundary with a post and wire fence delineating the southern and western boundaries. Now, just for members' awareness, I can confirm that I've had no previous involvement in the application and that I have no conflict of interest relative to the case, applicant or any interested party. So I'm just going to take you through my slides, which I'll put on presentation mode. So, as members can see, this is generally the site boundary of the site, as was witnessed in the site visit that we held last week. Netherton Cottages are to the east. This is the general location of the 2 glamping pods that I mentioned in the start to my presentation. And then, as members can see, the grass mound is here relative to where the road access would be taken, and as the 2 glamping units are tight to the western boundary of the site. These are the proposed pods design, elevations and sort of widths and dimensions, as I mentioned. These are typically what the applicant is proposing to put on the 2 site locations. This is the proposed fencing detail, as I referenced. And this is the drawing of the proposed bike sheds from the drawings. This is the west. This is a view from the Ellerton cottages to the site, as members will remember from their site visit. This is just from the opposite end of the view. The site access, where my cursor is roughly around here. That's a close-up view of the site access, which is here, as members observed in site visit. That's it looking directly into the site southwards. This is it looking towards Netherton cottages from the site access. This is looking at the opposite field with the gate that members, the events that we discussed on site. That's looking towards the road bend that also we observed. So that's looking back to the farm where you parked. And that's looking at from the farm where you parked towards the bend. So this is the opposite. We stood here when we were looking at the bend, if members are right. This shows you the full length of it. I thought it was an appropriate picture. I can come back and forth to these if members wish to when they're deliberating. And that was the end, so I'm just going to escape that. So the case officer report, the notice of appeal, the grounds of appeal, and other information is detailed in the papers in front of members. The case officer report is the statement that you asked for, which has NPF4, the local development plan, and any other supporting information that the case officer and development management wished you to have sight of. That concludes my presentation, convener.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McGuinness. Are there any questions for our planning advisor on this one? Not at this point. Okay, thank you. So I'm asking members if they now have enough information to determine the appeal. Yep, we're shaking of heads there. Yep, everyone's happy there with enough information. Okay, I'll just go round the virtual table and ask for members for their view on this one. And obviously we have got officers here who may be available to answer questions if there's specific points that you have got. So maybe start with Councillor Nicholl.
Thank you, convener. The pods, they would not take up much agricultural ground, so there wouldn't be a loss of prime agricultural ground. They do apply with the NFP policies 8 leisure and tourism, 29 sustainable tourism, and 30 camping sites. But there is a problem with the access, and it would be subject that the opposite field at the opposite side of the road would be kept clear, struck clear for visibility, and also the side of the road where the access is into the pods could be ramped and made possible so that cars could have proper views for oncoming traffics. Now, I would be in favour of these pods, providing it was agreed and suitable with the roads department, if they could make the necessary improvements to the exit out of the site for visibility, and the opposite side of the road for visibility on the corner.
Thanks, Councillor Nicholl. So I think you're suggesting there that you might be minded to approve it if we applied certain conditions.
That's exact.
Yeah, okay, right. Thanks.
That's exact. Thank you.
Councillor Brace.
Yes, thanks, convener. Yes, this does involve a really very small area of agricultural land, and the nature of the build, what we're looking at here is a couple of pods and a couple of very lightweight sheds really being constructed. And I think that it would be perfectly feasible to restore this back land, small piece of land, back to agricultural use if there was ever a time of great need and population desperate for food. It's not something that's going to take that land out of production forever and ever. And I think similar to Councillor Nicholl, my concern is the access to the site and the visibility splays. And I'd be minded to grant permission as well if I was satisfied that roads were happy that conditions could be put on this application to satisfy their needs. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brays. Councillor Dorn, can we get your views, please?
Yeah, thank you. Just if I can unmute myself. I'm in agreement with what other councillors have said on this matter. My concern as well would be around the visibility and access. So it would be about the conditions being attached to that. I also appreciate the response from the applicant that was put in around the use of the wind turbine to power pods. I think that's a great addition to the pods, and that's all I really wanted to say on that matter.
Thank you for that. Councillor Durno.
Thanks, convener. Similar to the other councillors, I've put in my notes that the visibility displays being presented before the development commences. NPF 4 Policy 29, the rural development is supportive of the development proposals that contribute to the viability, sustainability and diversity of rural communities, and it seeks to encourage and facilitate tourism development which benefits the local people. That's under Policy 30. So I am agreed if the visibility displays are implemented properly, that would be very great for the project. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Durno. Yes, I guess I found this was an application myself. I was a little bit undecided on, I suppose, but clearly there is a view from that is the majority view that we should approve, providing that we can get some sort of conditions that are satisfactory to our roads colleagues. I mean, certainly there are elements of NPF 4 that are supportive of rural development, sustainability of rural communities, etc. And this is obviously an attempt by a farmer to diversify, and it's a pretty modest development. So I would be quite happy to go with the majority view here. Mr. McGuinness has got his hand up, so can maybe hear from him.
As members are required, before you agree to go with the majority view, there are conditions that would need to be attached to this development. So before you come to your final decision, it'd be worth that you have a look over these. Now, I will put them on screen, but if members wish to see these, Sarah or I can, circulate them before you can completion by email.
You've got potential conditions already
Yes.
prepared. Oh, excellent. Yeah. Okay, well, if you can put those on screen.
If the roads wish to comment on the roads condition, they can so do so if committee invite them to do that. Yeah. So I will just put these back on if members just bear with me so I can share my screen. Right. So these are the conditions to be applied. So I'll let members read these. If they can let me know when they've finished at the bottom of 2, I'll go on to the next one. If members want me to read them out, I can do that. Yeah, okay. I will read them out, so bear with me. This might be long. So condition number 1 is the development to which this permission relates must be begun not later than the expiration of 3 years from the date of its grant. The reason is in order to clarify the duration of this permission in accordance with the requirements of the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997 as amended, and to ensure that it will lapse if not implemented within that period. Condition number 2 is prior to the commencement of development, the following shall be submitted to and approved in writing by the planning authority. 1. A scheme of hard and soft landscaping, boundary treatments and biodiversity enhancement measures to serve the development. The scheme of landscaping shall be in accordance with Angus Council Advice Note 21, the siting of built development in the countryside, and shall include details of the timing for the provision of landscaping and biodiversity enhancement measures. Thereafter, the landscaping biodiversity enhancement measures shall be carried out in accordance with the approved details, including timing for its provision. any trees or shrubs removed, dying, being severely damaged, or becoming seriously diseased within 5 years shall be replaced by trees or shrubs of similar size and species to those originally approved in the terms of this condition in the next planting season. 2. Details for the management of surface water drainage associated with the development. For the avoidance of doubt, surface water shall be managed by the means of sustainable drainage. Thereafter, no pod shall be occupied until the approved means of surface water drainage has been installed. The third part of this condition is details of existing and proposed ground levels across the site relative to a fixed datum. Thereafter, the development shall be undertaken in accordance with the approved details prior to the occupation of any pod hereby approved. 4 to this condition. Details of the proposed waste management arrangements to serve the development. Thereafter, the development shall be operated in accordance with the approved arrangements. The reason for this condition is in order to ensure the appropriate landscape mitigation and biodiversity enhancement measures are provided, and in order to ensure appropriate arrangements for surface water management, site levels and waste management are appropriately addressed. Condition 3. Prior to the commencement of any other development, visibility displays of 2.4 by 2.15 metres shall be provided on both sides of the proposed access at its junction with the public road. For the avoidance of doubt, displays shall also make provision for a forward visibility of 215 metres on the west approach to the site when measures from the proposed site access. Once formed, nothing shall be erected or planting permitted to grow to a height of 1,050 millimetres above the adjacent road channel level with the visibility displays. Reason: this is in order to ensure a safe and suitable access and to provide and maintain adequate sightlines in the interests of road safety. Condition 4 is that the development hereby approved shall be served by a connection to the public mains water supply, and no pod on the site hereby approved shall be occupied until that site supply is provided. The reason is in order to ensure that the development is undertaken in accordance with the detail upon which the application has been assessed, and to ensure the development is served by an appropriate water supply. Condition number 5, that the number of accommodation pods permitted within the site hereby approved shall not exceed 2 in total, and no other pods, chalets, caravans or other accommodation other than that one which is identified in the proposed plans shall be located within the site. The reason is in order to ensure that the proposed development does not operate at a level which has not been considered as part of this application. It just should be the last 2 conditions, councillors. Bear with me. Condition number 6, the development hereby approved shall be used for holiday accommodation only, and no person shall occupy any pod or other structure as permanent residential accommodation or as a permanent or principal residence. The reason is in order to define the consent and ensure that no permanent residence is formed at the site, and this would be contrary to the council's policies for tourism development and residential caravans. Condition 7 is no pods located within the application site shall be occupied by the same individual or group of individuals for a period exceeding a total of 12 weeks in any 26-week period. The operator of the site shall maintain a register of guests, including the name, addresses, dates of arrival and departure of those staying at the site. On request, this guest register shall be made available to the council as planning authority for inspection. The reason is in order to ensure that no permanent residence is formed at the site, as this would be contrary to the council's policy for tourism development and residential caravans. And that is me concluded. Thank you for bearing with me.
Thanks very much indeed for that. Yes, Councillor Nicholl.
One point I think maybe missed out, and I think the roads will confirm with me that the ground across the road is on the bend, and there'll have to be a strip allowed there to be mowed for parked cars, for the traffic coming down the road. Can't see round the corner the car parked on the road waiting to go into the site, so the car could get.
This is the field on opposite the development.
Opposite side of the road. Would the roads confirm that, please?
Afternoon, members. Thanks. Yes, Councillor Nicholl, that's covered in the condition as proposed. Yes.
Thanks, Mr. Barnes. I just a suggestion to members: do they want a short recess just to consider the conditions and perhaps discuss them?
Yes, convener. I have a quick question regarding condition 3. where it says prior to commencement of any other development. I'm assuming that that this allows for various groundworks to be done, and once that, so that development's allowed before displays have to be put in.
That is correct.
So are members happy with the conditions, or do they want a short recess? I mean, I'm offering that if you want it. No?
No, fine.
I'm satisfied with the conditions.
Okay, right. Okay, well, that looks like a negative. Just one question from myself, I think, for Mr. Barnes, really. Is he satisfied with the conditions in terms of road safety? Because that was a concern when we did the site visit.
Yes, I'm quite satisfied,
You're quite
Councillor
happy?
Duff. Yes.
Okay,
yes.
that's super. Okay, thanks very much indeed then. So I think we are all agreed that application 22/00500/full, the appeal is upheld. We have got the conditions that we have just agreed, which will be attached, and the justification for it is, I think, the elements of MPF 4, where we are keen to support rural development, rural sustainability and diversification for a rural business. I think these are the prime reasons that we are supporting it. We have had some concerns expressed by road staff, and I think the conditions have dealt with that particular concern. And as members have said, it's a very modest development, so it's taking a very small amount of agricultural land out of service, and as Councillor Braze has pointed out, that could be restored fairly easily, and it's fairly inobtrusive. So on those grounds, we will uphold the appeal. Okay, we shall now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is, I think, item, so it's just, right, item 5. No, it's not. That's the wrong one.
Yep, item 5.
Yes, item 5, the site of the former Lynx Hotel, 8 Lynx Parade, Carnoustie. And again, over to Mr. McGuinness.
Thanks, Convener. As I would say to members, this is my normal statement in these cases, and hopefully it's one of the last ones that I have to read out, so bear with me yet again. So the case in front of members this afternoon is as follows. This is a non-determination of application number 22/00646/full for the erection of 8 residential flats for short-term letting at site former of Lynx Hotel, 8 Lynx Parade, Carnoustie. As members will recall, there was a report on National Planning Framework 4 submitted to Development Standards Committee on the 14th of February 2023. That report informed the committee of the changes MPF 4 will bring about as part of the development plan and its implications. However, in the context of Dmrc and as planning advisor to this committee, the application in front of you will require to be assessed against MPF 4 before you make a decision on it. This is because MPF 4 forms part of the development plan alongside the 2016 local development plan, and therefore falls within the requirements of section 25 and 37.2 of the Town and Country Planning Scotland Act 1997 as amended. As our members are aware, you are required to determine the case in line with the development plan at the time the planning decision is made. Therefore, it's my advice to the committee that you cannot proceed to properly determine this case without further procedure, i.e. until such times as further written representations on MPF 4 in relation to this case are provided by the Development Management section of the Planning Service. Proceeding to determine this case without an assessment against MPF 4 would result in an invalid decision and could lead to judicial review if the case is determined without this assessment. This is also the advice of the Chief Planner of Angus Council, and I understand the legal advisor to the committee. Once the view of Development Management on the merits of the case assessed against MPF 4 is known, I would be in a position to present the full case to members in a manner of committee's choosing, which I would recommend should be at a later meeting of Dmrc. It is also my recommendation to committee that they ask for further procedure from the Development Management section of the Planning Service in the form of further written representation of the Angus Local Development Plan 2016 and any appropriate supplementary guidance, as this is a non-determination case. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks very much indeed. That is pretty clear, and that's the same advice we've had on recent applications. So I think we will need this additional information from the planning service. We will give them 28 days to provide that information, and then we will allow the applicant a further 14 days to respond to the council's submission. And that's exactly what we've done with similar cases. So are we agreed that that's what happens? Okay, great. Thanks very much indeed. And that is the end of today's meeting. Thanks for your attendance.
Thank you, Convener.
John, can you stop the live stream, please?